Today we're going to be looking at how the RG405M compares to the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus for PlayStation 2 emulation. Now, starting off, as with all of these comparisons, it's always like for like. Both systems run in the same emulators with the exact same settings. And both of these devices share the same internal hardware, so honestly, I expect them to be pretty much like for like. And as you can see with Blitz the League already, both of these systems are running the game at basically the same frames per second, averaging around about 40 frames per second, dropping down to around about 20 at the busier times in the game. As I've said in previous comparison videos, with a game like this, it is a bit slow and a little bit janky, but with a sports game like this, you could probably get away with playing it. But as we've come to expect with the internal hardware of the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus and now the RG405M, PlayStation 2 emulation is a little bit of a struggle. Moving on to Kinetica, and once again we can see both systems are running this pretty much like for like. Although I will say that RG405M tends to handle busier scenes a little bit better, noticing that it manages to keep a slightly higher frames per second than the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. Kinetica on the RG405M is a really great experience and a thoroughly enjoyable game, and the dipping in the frames per second don't take away from that experience much, at least for me. Moving on to EA Shocks, and this is a much trickier game to try and emulate. And once again, you can see the frames per second are like for both of these consoles. Now, I will apologize because the frames per second on the RG405M is a little bit blurry. My mistake in the recording there. But as you can probably see, the frames per second are running pretty much like for like, nearly identical. And as we said at the beginning, this is what we'd expect with identical internals. For both the RG405M and the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, I do have them running the Vulkan GPU renderer because this is the only renderer that really works with EA Shocks. And honestly, EA Shocks is a thoroughly enjoyable experience on both of these systems as well. Moving on to Time Splitters 2, and once again both the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus and the RG405M are banging out an equivalent frames per second, hovering around about the 40 frames per second mark. But this is where the differences of the RG405M start to come into play for me, and that is the position of the left analog stick, making it much easier to actually play this game. And something I didn't expect that would work so well are the shoulder buttons as well, making for aiming and shooting a lot easier on the RG405M than it is on the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, at least for first-person shooter games like this. Now, as you can see from this video, both the RG405M and the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus both handle PlayStation 2 emulation very, very similarly. And they're not perfect, they do have struggles, but there are a fair number of games that you can fully enjoy on these systems. If you want to see how these systems compare for GameCube emulation, then check out the next episode.